Yo, imagine a single unit flipping the damage formula on its head, not just by inflating his own numbers, but by rewriting the rules for everyone else on your team. That's the reality with Qiuyuan. The crit buff requirement is finally revealed, and it's laughably easy to hit. Just stack 65%, and suddenly he's feeding the entire squad like a five-star buffet. At 65% crit rate, Guian doesn't just hand out a modest bonus. He unleashes a team-wide crit damage buff that leaves the Shorekeeper's so-called legendary 25% looking like pocket change. Yo, welcome back to the channel. Kamusta po sa inyong lahat? While on paper, it's only about a 5% increase over what the Shorekeeper provides, that extra edge is deceptively powerful. In a game where every percent can decide whether you clear a fight comfortably or scrape by, that 5% translates into the kind of difference that feels like rolling two extra crit damage substats from your echoes. It might not sound massive at first glance, but in practice, it elevates Guiuan's buff into a tool that makes the Shorekeeper look more like a stepping stone than the final word on crit buffs. In addition, Guiuan offers a different approach to crit buffing by providing units that extra crit damage oomph, allowing us to focus more on their crit rates. And getting there doesn't require the same preconditions that the Shorekeeper has. But before that, I just recently got Augusta's best in slot weapon, and now she is even stronger than ever before. Just look at these stats. You know how I managed to pull off an extra 50 wishes? It's all thanks to Loot Bar. They provide safe and reliable discounted top ups that are cheaper than in game top ups, and trusted by the community with excellent reviews. With their do it yourself top ups on mobile for Wuthering Waves, you can be sure your account is safe because you don't have to give away your password. With Qiuyuan and Galbrena releasing soon, and Genshin Impact celebrating another anniversary, you would definitely want to save on your top ups. So if you click my link in the description, you'll get an additional 10% off your next purchase. Go check it out. Link is in my description. Now, here's the catch. If you find yourself stuck below that golden 65% crit rate threshold, Shorekeeper still remains a valuable ally. Think of Shorekeeper as a protective cushion, stepping in to make sure your team's damage doesn't collapse when Guiuan can't quite carry the crit buff on his own. It stabilizes your output and prevents you from falling behind. But once you manage to push Guiuan over that 65% line, the dynamic flips entirely. It's not just about keeping up anymore. It feels like slotting a secret gear into your build, and suddenly you're not reacting to the fight. You're controlling its tempo. The momentum shifts into your hands, and the difference can be the gap between a clean victory and a frustrating struggle. The ripple effect this has on synergy is also wild. Look at Galbrena. Her entire identity revolves around echo skill damage, and Guiyuan supercharges that without even breaking a sweat. Chisa? Same story. And let's not forget Iuno, whose heavy attack amplification is lots into the puzzle like it was always meant to be. Guiyuan turns these characters from strong to devastating, all because you found a way to squeeze more crit rate into Guiyuan's build, and he doesn't necessarily need to rely solely on the Shorekeeper. What's beautiful about this is that it forces you into a brand new layer of decision making every time you look at this build. Do you go all in on crit rate, stacking it relentlessly to guarantee his buff is always up? Or do you gamble, leaning harder into crit damage and letting Shorekeeper fill the gaps when Guiyuan can't quite reach the threshold? This isn't just about fine tuning a stat line anymore because it's about shaping your team's entire rhythm around whether you want consistency or raw burst potential. Guiyuan makes you think differently, and that tension is what makes him so much more exciting than a simple stat stick. And don't underestimate how this shift ripples outward into the meta. Echo farming just got sharper, more competitive, almost ruthless. Crit rate substat rolls are already among the rarest and most painful to chase, and that rarity means we can't simply shrug them off anymore. Every roll suddenly feels precious, like uncovering a hidden gem that might decide the difference between a mediocre Qiuyuan and a god tier enabler. They've become the new currency of progress, the golden tickets that separate casual builds from optimized monsters. Every fraction of a percent carries weight because every sliver of crit rate edges you closer to that sweet spot where the ceiling on your team's damage doesn't just rise, it detonates, blasting open new levels of performance you didn't think were possible. The good news is that while crit rate substats are scarce, the actual requirement isn't astronomically high, making it far more realistic to reach that threshold if you commit to the grind and stay disciplined in your builds. On a side note, credit where credit is due. The devs really delivered here by giving players a husbando who isn't just eye candy, but an actual powerhouse worth pulling. For months, people have speculated about whether we'd ever get a new crit buffer strong enough to free teams from their dependence on the Shorekeeper. And at the same time, the community has been vocal about wanting more husbandos in the roster. Kuro Games managed to tick both boxes in one elegant move, and in doing so, they didn't just add another face to the lineup, they added a unit who reshapes how we think about team buffs. This feels less like fan service and more like a strategic win for Kuro, blending gameplay innovation with player demand in a way that makes the roster stronger and the fan base happier. Keep in mind that everything discussed here is still subject to change. The numbers and mechanics surrounding Guiuan's crit buff haven't been officially locked in by the devs, which means this should be treated as informed theory crafting rather than absolute fact. Use it as a framework to plan your builds, but stay flexible and ready to adapt once the final confirmed details are released. So, the real question becomes sharper than ever. How far are you willing to push your crit rate investments? Are you content to lean on the tried and true Shorekeeper as a safety net? Or are you bold enough to chase the 65% sweet spot where Guian ascends as the undisputed king of crit buffs? That choice won't just influence your present team's numbers, it will shape how flexible and competitive you'll be once Galbrena and Chisa enter the field, bringing with them whole new layers of synergy that only a fully empowered Guiuan can unlock. Make no mistake, Guiuan just changed the rules. And if you're not ready to build around it, you're going to be left behind watching other players' teams hit numbers you didn't even think were possible. So, if this video resonated with you, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Hit that bell to get notified whenever I drop a new video. Your support is much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Maraming salamat po, and I will see you on the next drop. Goodbye.